Dandy Vigilante. I love that title. And this is his second time that he's been here to feature. He featured his other book. Was it 3 or 4 years ago?
5.
5 years ago. Was I wasted?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you weren't.
Oh, I might have been. Like November, I'll have 4 years of sobriety. So chances are, if you were a feature here before that, chances are I held it good, didn't I? I held it up really good. I swear.
Really well.
Did you notice my mocking little voice? I was like, I held it really good because I really talk like that. So, like when I'm talking, normally I use decent grammar. But it was awesome that people bought books during the break. Love it. So anyway, Kevin Daly served in the U.S. Peace Corps as a refrigeration instructor in Samoa, graduated from Howard Law School, and earned a black belt in karate. He might drop down from there. He practices law and teaches ethic and law courses at Northeastern University and Bunker Hill Community College. He studied writing at Grub Street, UCLA, and the Prague Summer Program. This is his second novel, Mr. Kevin Daly. This is his second novel, Mr. Kevin Daly.
It's actually reminiscent with my son who just came here, and we used to come here when he was a little lad. Now he's bigger than I am.
Yeah.
Perfect shirt over there. Dandy Vigilante, it's kind of a catchy title, but it's a little bit of a love story about a married couple, and it evolves into a political mystery, political corruption. So yeah, he does kick some butts, but it's really not so much about that, even though there are some gratifying episodes of that. And there are no copies for sale, because I didn't bring any, because it's free if you download by midnight from Kindle. There we go. Begin media race, like he did. No, that's a sex scene, never mind.
That's what she said.
I'll start at the beginning. As I revolved through the brass door into the hotel, I knew I'd lost her. I'd hung back too far on Tremont Street. The shortcut through the Parker House was a bad idea. Conferences had let out, and the lobby was chock full of people as aimless as amoeba. I squeezed and bumped my way through them in their bags, pamphlets, and smartphones. Exited onto School Street, I turned right and hustled down the sidewalk, my wooden cane clicked among the Bostonians and visitors out on this late Sunday afternoon. My pace was fast, considering my attire. Worn out, droopy brown pants, a matching vest, and a dress shirt, all that were picked up from the Salvation Army yesterday. Debbie Stapleton was her name. I looked down a sliver of an alley, but couldn't see her. Checked a dim side street, not there either. I veered onto Washington Street. On the vendor's grill to my left, sausages sizzled incongruously close to the Irish Famine Memorial. A starving couple embracing their dead child, cast forever in bronze. I paused and stared. Maybe never having a child was better than having a dead child. On my right was a bookstore, its facade a wall of windows. I adjusted my bow tie and scanned the people inside for a flash of blonde hair, but didn't spot her, so I walked into the heart of downtown Crossing. Wide sidewalks hosted carts of souvenirs and snacks being hawked between retail store entrances. Bargain hunters with shopping bags shuffled along the cobblestones and tinted pavers. A block ahead, a woman looked both ways before crossing the sun-drenched intersection at Winter Street. It was Debbie. You don't often see a dress like hers, vivid red with a broad white stripe running diagonally across her chest, taut against her body, but fluttering along her knees like a sail's luff. In this feminine line, she had great lines. Sorry, this feminine craft. Head down, I concentrated on my movement, just some old man in a hurry. The edge-worn wingtip shoes affected my gait, but my cane barely touched the ground as I picked up speed, anxious to see where she was going. All I knew was that she wasn't where she was supposed to be. I looked up to keep her in sight and sucked in my breath. She was right in front of me, 20 yards and closing. She turned around. I coughed and turned to face a boutique's display window with my tight-clothed mannequin standing on high. I pretended to search my pockets as my heart fell away. In the reflection, Debbie appeared and looked my way. Then she passed behind me, her face as blank as a female mannequin in front of me. Bony hips and shoulders of the mannequin posing like a question, to which I answered, "No, plastic anorexia doesn't look good on you." I followed Debbie out of downtown Crossing. She turned onto Bromfield, where the foot traffic died off. Old buildings faced each other across the street's narrow longitude, their edifices in shadow. I tossed a look to the side, just a pedestrian catching his reflection, in my case, gray-white, head of hair, a white mustache, and a posture properly stooped. Several buildings ahead, she slowed, slipped her cell phone from her purse, and looked at it. An address for a private rendezvous? As I stopped, a motion to my left in an alley distracted me. Teenagers at the other end faced a white-haired lady standing near a dumpster. She wrapped her purse around her arm and clutched it to her chest. Up the street, Debbie slowed, turned slightly to the wind, channeled by the buildings. She checked her phone again. In the dusky alley, the elderly lady shook her head and stepped back. The tallest kid in a studded leather jacket pushed her shoulder and held out his hand. No one else was around. I growled in frustration and turned down the alley. My cane clicked loudly as several times I glanced up to them and down to the ground. Surely they wouldn't want to witness. One spotted me, pointed me out. The tall one backed off. The other three did nothing. But then he was nodding at me, smiling like it was 2-for-1 day at Macy's with misguided youths receiving senior citizen discounts. I dug my nails into my palms. Crime was one thing. Picking on the weak was an entirely different animal. I was a victim once. "Yo, what we got?" Head tilted, he pointed his thumb at her. "This your old lady?" The lady pursed her lips, looking ghostly in the dim light. She sported a daisy brooch on her pastel blouse with an ivory-colored silky shirt. Her pink skin glowed through white hair thin enough to blow off like the head of a dandelion gone to seed. I scrutinized the four guys about 20 yards away, watching for hidden hands, bulging pockets, glints of sharp metal. A skinny kid about 17 wore a spiked bracelet around his wrist. I hoped it was to draw attention away from his acne scars. He moved behind the tall guy. The other two guys looked older and heavier. They stepped aside. Stand off or to jump. One was dressed in faded old Navy-like clothes, but the other resembled an escaped POW behind enemy lines with his filthy clothes, tangled hair, and mean face. Altogether, they could do me damage. "Grandpa, this lady owes us some money. Courtesy pay for walking across the street, you know?" He checked his friend, like Boy Scouts. They laughed on cue. He reached out and they bumped fists. He appeared to be the oldest, about 19. I knew he was the one to concentrate on. That's a fib, the elderly lady blurted. "I'm here to pick her up," I said, trying to ignore the palpitations in my chest. "We're late." The woman opened her mouth briefly. "Hey, Prince Charming." The tall guy grabbed the lapels of his jacket, head cocked. "She ain't gonna make it to the ball, man." "Why don't you guys leave her alone? I mean, really, come on." Guilt him out of it. "She's a lady, an elderly lady." He hesitated, checked his guys, who appeared undecided. "Mind your own business, old man," he said. "I will if you will. Let's all leave." I stepped closer and straightened my posture. He was a wise guy. Let's see if he was wise enough to recognize determination. "Okay?" "Fuck you." He grabbed the purse, causing the lady to stagger. "She's coming with me," I shouted as I lifted my cane and shook it. This was getting absurd. He started laughing. His accomplices joined in and reached for my cane. He was a bit tall to me, about 6'2". He pulled, but I held on. He tilted his head, eyeballing me. "Better let go, Papa." I stepped in and twisted the cane away. He was surprised, thought it was luck, and didn't notice that my slate blue eyes weren't blurred with age. The POW look-alike circled behind me, but the tall one shook his head to call him off. Then he grabbed my cane again. "Come here, geezer, you want to mess with me?" I let him get a good grip. He tugged hard. I twisted away again, same technique. Against the thumb, stands firm, control my center of gravity. He was flabbergasted. "Check it out," the skinny kid said, leaning side to side. "You crazy?" The tall guy's face darkened. Adrenaline hit my bloodline. He was coming. I didn't need this. I stepped right as he lunged, and my left foot stayed. He tripped over it. "Oh," the lady gasped, stepping back. "Please, let's just go. Get my skirt and go." The skinny kid guffawed, and the other two mustered a laugh at their fallen comrade, which only pissed him off more. I kept my eyes on them, but the lady's comment about her skirt confused me. Maybe one of them had her shopping bag. He leapt to his feet, checked the other punks, and dropped the cane behind me, hoping to defuse the situation. He lunged. I dodged wider, whipped out my corn-cob pipe, and as his arm grazed my chest, I jabbed the pipe tip at the nerve by his carotid artery. "What the fuck?" Sitting on the ground, he rubbed his neck. I knew the pain. He pulled out a knife. I didn't know that pain. I didn't intend to, but I couldn't abandon this lady. I stepped back into a fighting stance, my arms and hands loose in front of me. Come on, Johnny, the old Navy kid said, and glanced down the alley. I snatched my cane from the ground and nodded to the lady to move behind me. My skirt, she pleaded. Stepping backward, the old Navy kid crushed a soda can. He leaned toward Johnny and whispered, let's get out of here. Johnny glared at me. The Johnny whisperer tugged his arm. Forget it, man. We ain't looking for that. We got shit to do. Bad boy Johnny pulled away, scanned the area. Then he jumped at me, thrusting the blade in front. I dodged and smashed his wrist with my oak cane. The knife flew out of his hand as he cried out. Oh, fuck, man, look at your arm, urban POW guy said. Johnny held it up. His wrist was fine. I must have missed it. But his forearm was noticeably bent. I had swung hard, but suspected he was vitamin D deficient. He tried to straighten his arm, winced, and went pale. Fuck that, POW lunged closer to me, his grimy hair swinging, grinning wildly. We ain't taking that motherfucker, you dead. He rolled up his sleeves to display Grim Reaper tattoo and skull tattoos on his thick forearms. He pulled up his pant leg. No tattoo, but tucked into his boot, a sheathed hunting knife that he whipped out. The skinny boy moved behind me and grabbed the old lady by the neck. She cried out. Kid, I said, you better let go of her. No one else needs to get hurt. He laughed. You the one that's gonna get hurt on, man. Knife be damned. I turned, grabbed his scrawny neck, and squeezed for all I was worth. He twisted and pushed the lady against the wall. She went down. He slammed his wrist spikes into my shoulder. POW guy hovered, waving his hunting knife. And that was when I saw it. The lady's blue skirt on the ground. The silky garment she wore wasn't a skirt, it was a slip. Near the skirt was her plain white underwear, messed with alley dirt, or worse. Rage flooded into me. I spun Skinny Kid by the arm and shoulder, smashed him face first into the brick wall and a lifetime of dental issues. Then I turned to the last contender, the POW with the long blade and short temper. His heightened posture belied his lack of training. His belt buckle jangled. Fist raised, he ran at me, which I countered with a leg sweep. Landed him on his ass, but as I moved in for the finish, he scrambled up and slashed my shin with the knife. His expression was less confident, but he came at me, slashing diagonally left and right, left and right. I moved backward. This is where Indiana Jones would whip out his pistol and shoot the attacker. Alas, no gun on me. He lunged with no head stab. I blocked, moving sideways, using both hands to continue his downward stab, completing the arc of his attack all the way into his own abdomen. He froze. The moan and big O of his mouth weren't gratifying enough. With an upper elbow strike, I shut him up and he slid to the ground. I stood over him, blood dripping down my shin, wanting to do him more damage, wanting to kill him. Johnny ran off unsteadily, cradling his arm. Skinny was out cold. The elderly lady whimpered, please, help me. I helped her up and tried to calm her. She had cheek abrasions and was unsteady, but otherwise she seemed all right. My shin had a 1-inch cut, not too bad, but weird to see the white of my shin bone. Oh my, she said, they're all gone? She glanced at the last one, who moved to the wooden fence and was trying to climb it. I retrieved her skirt and helped her step into it. Neither of us mentioned her underwear. Images popped into my mind that I shoved aside. I straightened my gray wig, then gave her my arm in keeping with my character. When we reached the street, I checked behind. Several tracks of blood were on the fence, but POW Punk was gone. She was steady now and flush, excited, I assumed, from my surprising chivalry. I never imagined what a thrill it would be to cause such a glow on an elderly lady's face. Thank you, she gushed. Thank you. I never. You're welcome, I said, turning to leave. And yes, I never either. Walking up Winter Street, I smiled until realizing that I'd lost Debbie and the bleed had reached my ankle. A memory surfaced of high school. I'd been attacked and abused by a guy named Paul Arena, a name and face I'd never forget. Prickles rose on the back of my neck. Quickened my pace, checked left, and took a right. Corner of Boston Common, I passed the brick and wood Park Street Church, scanned the pedestrians, and hurried up Beacon Hill toward the Gold Dome State House. My sock was bloody, my quarry wasn't in sight, and I might not get a chance to tail her for a few days. Debbie might have found whatever building she'd sought. I should have checked the City Hall area, but couldn't delay any longer. I had to get an article in before deadline. I straightened my posture and tossed the cane and corncob pipe into the trash barrel. Funny, what suddenly maddened me was the hot dress Debbie was wearing, the red one with the white stripe. I bought it for our 6th anniversary.